Hello and welcome to another epic tale of r/ProRevenge. My name's Ryan, the official host here at Reddit Voice, and I look forward to bringing you guys today's video. Before I do though, I'd just really appreciate it if you could hit that subscribe button and that notification bell to stay up to date on all the latest videos. Mess with minors and my job? Lose your job and your boyfriend. Edited some stuff, thanks to all 100 of you for the correction of intensive purposes to intense and purposes. Also thanks to all who upvoted, gave awards, and commented. Much love. Hey folks, first post in here. Hopefully it fits. Throwaway because some of the folks in the story may know my Reddit, so you know, safety and all. Also done on mobile, so sorry for formatting. TLDR at the end because this is a doozy. Alright, circa 2014, I worked for a large movie theater chain in a small Midwestern city. Job was pretty awesome outside of the shit pay and essentially no way to move up. I like to think I'm good at my job and I try my hardest no matter where I work. In this particular situation, I was one of the most tenured employees at the theater, save for two other folks who had worked there part-time on the side and had full-time jobs elsewhere. So for the sake of the story, I need to tell you about Jane, not actual name. Jane started working for the theater 2 months before me. They worked elsewhere as a supervisor and was looking to move up at the theater. Right after I started, one of the managers left to work at a different theater and the supervisor moved up. We had two managers, one general manager, basically the highest level at the theater, and a supervisor, which was a manager in training. This is important. Jane somehow got the supervisor position even though there was another person who essentially was promised the position, and due to their continued service at the theater for almost 8 years. There were rumors about Jane sleeping with the GM when she had started, and this situation got them going again. I didn't care too much because why would I? I am but a lowly peon in the corporate machine. Anyways, Jane moved up and the tenured crew member left the company because they got screwed over. Once Jane moved up, we had a whole meeting about her moving up and how the theater focuses on professionalism and ensuring no favoritism was happening, specifically referencing how normal crew members shouldn't fraternize outside of work with management. Jane didn't really listen to that though. She continued to hang out with the crew members who were mostly underage and would do various things like go drinking with minors, taking them to bars, and buying them drinks, or simply buying alcohol at a store and letting them drink at her house. I honestly have no issue with the drinking at home deal, just adding context, as well as smoke weed with them and post pictures on Instagram. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, Jane had a secret Instagram where they would post pictures of themselves with their friends from the theater. They chose Instagram because none of their family or their boyfriend used Instagram and no one would know, right? Even more damning was her relationship with a 19-year-old who worked at the theater. She had a boyfriend who had been with her for years and honestly supported her for all intents and purposes. Not only did she have a 19-year-old side piece, but was also messing around with a 17-year-old. I even caught them messing around in the break room one time. She essentially threatened me with my job if I told anyone, and honestly, she could have just told me to please be quiet and I would have just judged her silently. Fast forward about a year or so and another one of the managers left for a new job. Jane obviously moved up and someone else took the supervisor position. Now I won't go into too much detail, but despite my tenor and performance, I was looked over for the promotion. A newer crew member who was really good friends with Jane got the position over me. This was confirmed by the other manager who let me know that Jane was definitely in good with the GM who ultimately made the final decision. That being said, I was beginning to sour and making minimum wage for years at a job that couldn't give a shit about my efforts and continued performance. That being said, I was preparing for an exit. Before I get into my exit, it's important to note that Jane had and most likely still has a problem with me. I have talked about some issues I had with her, but I never escalated or even confronted her about anything she did to me up to this point. I honestly let it be. But I didn't like her, and the fact I didn't like her or play along with her bullshit infuriated her. So much so to the point where she made my life hell at the theater. When she was a supervisor, she didn't have much power, but when she became a manager, she began giving me shit shifts, convincing people that I was weird and to avoid me. I mean, I am weird, but not like avoid me weird. threatening me physically, threatening my job. Her and her gang of misfit a-holes also slashed my tires. I have no solid proof, but my car was parked in the employee lot, and you know, only employees can get in. Beyond that, she also made fun of my girlfriend, my now wife, for having an invisible illness, MS, and she would make her life hell because she had a disability and had some minor limitations. Add together all of this, plus my girlfriend went off to college, plus getting booked over for the promotion, suffice to say, I found a new job. I had a few close friends at the theater, including my now wife, who I met while working there, silver lining, right? And I had let a few of them know about the new job, but told them to keep it on the DL since it was still 2 weeks away. I had put my 2 weeks in with the GM and asked that he also keep it on the DL since Jane and her posse would F with me. I told him I wanted to tell everyone myself, so it kept him quiet. Now the important thing was about my new job, that it essentially paid me double my wages from the theater. All of my friends were stoked for me, and I was taking a job that would also have me making more than the managers at the theater, but also a job that put me on a better track in life. That being said, with Jane and I butting heads on multiple occasions and her track record of messing with me, she decided to get one last attack on me. She started a rumor that I was going to call out on all of my shifts for the 2 weeks before my new job started. With her last act of revenge in motion, the GM approached me and let me know that he wouldn't be scheduling me the last 2 weeks. I tried to explain to him that the rumors were bullshit and that I needed to work because it would be my only source of income. I told him that Jane started the rumor, and I started to tell him all of the other stuff as well. He, of course, didn't believe me and told me that Jane wouldn't do what I'm saying she would do. So it was her word versus mine. I contacted my new job, who let me know that my start date was firm and that their budget wouldn't allow me to start until 2 weeks later as originally planned. Now here I am, essentially jobless for 2 weeks. I was upset, but I was also lucky. I was still living with family and didn't have to pay rent. So I sucked it up and essentially told myself that I would just take a forced 2-week vacation. But Jane didn't stop there. She escalated it again by having one of her cronies call my new job and tell them that I got fired. I was luckily able to talk down my new boss by letting him know that this wasn't the case and that I put my 2 weeks in and everything else. But that was the last straw. I left my last day at the theater, and while it was sad and I was upset that I wouldn't be able to work out the last 2 weeks of my job that I had for years, I was focused and determined on my revenge. Rule number 1 of living a secret life and having a secret Instagram is not add everybody and their mother to the page. I had a friend of a friend who also didn't care for Jane. Let's call him Joe. Joe and I had gone to high school together and briefly worked at the theater together. He and Jane were part of the same group at the theater until eventually they had a small falling out. Nothing crazy, but he wasn't exactly happy with her. I talked to Joe and we discussed my issues with Jane over some lunch that I bought for him. Food is the key to all revenge plots. Once we ate and discussed my problems with Jane, I asked for his help. I needed access to her Instagram. You know, the secret one, showing her hanging out with underage employees, drinking alcohol and smoking weed with them, and also some mushy posts about her 19-year-old boyfriend, as well as some moderately racy photos with her 17-year-old fling. With very little discussion, he gave me full access. I took screenshots of essentially everything, and we're talking 2 to 3 years worth of illicit and moderately illegal activity. More than enough to get her fired and to raise some questions in a relationship. I took the screenshots and I printed them on the most high-quality paper/material that CVS had to offer. I also copied them to a few flash drives for good measure. I purchased 2 yellow padded envelopes, can never be too safe, and filled them both with copies of all the posts as well as a flash drive with additional copies. As well, I included a note in each one for the appropriate parties. One of the envelopes was taped to the back of the door of the theater. There was somewhat of a blind spot, so I pulled into the parking lot from the rear and snuck around the corner, Mission Impossible style, to tape the envelope to the back of the door. On it was the GM's name, as well as in the letter, I merely stated that one of their managers had a secret Instagram with a lot of damning evidence of not only favoritism, but also fraternizing with underage employees amongst other wrongdoings. In the letter, I also requested her immediate termination, or the information would be provided to the district manager, as well as our corporate office. I made sure to put it somewhere the GM would see on his morning sweep, and when he opened the theater. The second folder and letter was delivered to her home by Joe. Joe agreed to this as I knew Jane's schedule and had a good idea of when she would be gone, and he knew where she lived from previous hangouts. With both folders delivered, it was only a matter of time. Before I knew it, I was receiving death threats from Jane's gang. All of them saying that they knew it was me and that Jane was going to come after me. That she never did anything to deserve this. It didn't matter to me, of course. I no longer worked there and would hopefully never have to deal with them again. From what I heard, she was taken into the main office of the theater and the GM let her have it. He ultimately had to fire her because there was very clear proof that she was in direct violation of many of the rules and conditions of her employment, as well as her boyfriend, with proof in hand, kicked her out of his home. Last I heard, she moved farther north and hasn't held down a solid job since. Her family didn't want much to do with her once everything came out about her cheating on her boyfriend. Also, the part about fooling around with a 17-year-old tends to not sit well. In the end, I started my new job without fail and moved on from that place. Haven't seen much of anyone from there since. TLDR, manager makes my life hell, continues to hang out and fool around with underage crew members, lives to regret it. Enjoy losing your job and your boyfriend. Don't stick to our agreement? You shouldn't have been stepping out. Okay, so I tried to post this on ProRevenge, but it immediately and inexplicably got deleted. I guess it was a bit too much to be petty, so I'm posting it on here instead. Here we go, strap in for a long ones, kids. This is a story from long, long ago in a galaxy far, far away, and by that I mean it happened 3 years ago at the pizza place I used to work. I was a delivery driver for 6 years at various pizza places, picking up and moving on to greener pastures whenever it suited me. Granted that it only happened a couple times because I'm unfortunately a very loyal employee. To be honest, I should have done that before this whole thing ever happened. The store I was at was a part of a nationwide franchise, and the waters had gotten choppy. All of the managers quit at once, and they just couldn't seem to get one to stick around. It got so bad that the area manager had to come in as acting GM and brought a manager from another store with him. These two are the main characters of the story. Well, besides me, obviously. For the purpose of the story, we'll call them Jeff and Kate. I'll just be me. Jeff was 45 and had been with the company for a long time before I started. Worked himself up from the position of a driver all the way to being the one to oversee about 20 stores. He was actually married to another area manager. I got along okay with Jeff for the most part. On the other hand, Kate and I got along like a house on fire. Both being ladies of a similar age, she often confided things in me that she would soon bite her in the ass. Figuratively. I don't think that's how they meant to write it, but I'm saying it how it's on screen. I considered myself a decent employee as far as pizza slingers go. Came to work on time, did all of the dishes, got along with everyone, and had the best delivery times. Because of this, I usually landed all the best shifts, including opening on Saturdays. If you've never worked a tip job, you know that this shift is the most coveted out there. Working through both the lunch and the dinner rush before going home is, well, worth having to get up earlier. The information is relevant to the story, so trust me. You see, there are always two drivers who do that shift. One comes in earlier and leaves earlier. I was the one who got to come in just before we flipped on the open sign and went home once dinner rush began to lie down. This is also relevant. The final vital bit of info you need for context is that my brother goes a bit wild at Christmas. His favorite thing to do is book an entire movie theater out for everyone he knows to see a movie of his choice. This particular year was when The Last Jedi came out, and he is a Star Wars fanatic, so that was what we were going to see. Unfortunately, it would be at 6 on a Saturday, at least 2 hours before I would get off. At this point, Jeff and Kate had been with us for 3 months without managing to find suitable replacements, and I made an arrangement with the other opening driver to switch shifts because his ended right when I would need to leave to make the movie. I then cleared it with Jeff and he agreed to let me go at 5:30. I was set, or so I thought. You see, that Saturday we started busy. Very busy. So busy that at 5:30 when I went to hand Jeff my slips, he had already dispatched me out on a double delivery. I took them but reminded him that I needed to leave when I got back. I just hoped the trailers were long enough that I didn't miss much of the beginning of the movie. I got back from my double and by that point it was already 6 and the theater was 20 minutes away. I had to leave. Once again, I went to hand my slips to Jeff, but he got in my face. "You leave when I say you can leave," he told me. "You're not going to let me?" I asked, incredulous that he was reneging on our deal. "I came in early. I did my time, damn it." He looked so very smug. "No." Well, I made a decision right then and there. There are so many pizza jobs out there that they needed me more than I needed them. I took my slip book, you know, the kind you see in restaurants. I found they're great for delivery because not only can you store all of your slips in them, but they're hard enough for customers to bear down on to sign. Anyways, I slapped that in his hands and said, "Fine then." I quit. It was his turn to look incredulous. After making sure I meant it, he checked me out and I left the store fuming. I missed the entire opening of my movie. But the story doesn't end there. Oh no, you remember how I said Kate would confide in me? She loved to tell me about how often she and Jeff would meet at a hotel after work. She even horrified me by telling me Jeff would turn off the cameras so they could have sex in the back office when the store was empty, in a chair I had sat in multiple times. Kate was even so obliging to give insignificant details like the date and times this happened. So I put in an anonymous call to the franchise's HR and told them what to look for when it came to checking the tapes. I told them everything Kate had told me, but I still wasn't content with leaving it there. So I went to my local pizza place that just happened to be in Jeff's wife area. Remember when I said she was also an area manager? And got to gossiping with the workers there while they made my pizza. I was well aware it would make it back to her. Food employees can't keep such juicy gossip to themselves. Jeff got demoted to store manager, then transferred to the same store in his wife's area, just so she could keep an eye on him. I guess it didn't work out because last I heard Jeff's wife divorced him and he no longer worked for that franchise. And none of that would have happened if he'd just let me leave on time. TLDR, exposed my manager's cheating, including sex on company time on company property, because he didn't keep a deal he'd agreed to. Edit. This got way more attention than I was expecting. Thank you so much to everyone who's awarded it. That being said, there are a few details I left out because I thought they would bog down the post. I'll just add them here. Jeff had let the other morning driver, the one whose shift I took, go before me despite claiming we were too busy for me to go. I said Jeff and I got along okay, and that was not entirely the truth. Before he had started seeing Kate, Jeff had hit on me pretty relentlessly. I turned him down, of course. I am of the firm belief you should not dip your pen in company ink, and he did not handle the rejection well. He would often do petty things to get back at me, but it wasn't until this situation that it really got on my nerves. He was the kind of person who acted friendly to your face and did shitty things behind your back. Exemplified best by cheating on his wife. His wife had been out of town for a few months, training area managers out of state, which is probably why he got away with the affair for even that long. He would have been caught eventually anyway. His and Kate's relationship was pretty open in our store because neither of them seemed to grasp the concept of discretion. I just happened to be the one who blew the whistle. Finally, 5. Jeff had a grudge against my brother because he sued the same company for having to work unpaid overtime. This was his attempt at fucking us both over at once. And with that end tale, we've reached the tail end of today's ProRevenge. If you liked it, you know what to do. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and that like button to stay up to date on all the latest videos. As always, my name's Ryan, the official host here at Reddit Voice, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video.